2 years after breaking up with Ethan Miller, my lung cancer had finally entered its final stage. In the last days of my life, I dragged my aching body alone to Lake Teso. Years ago, we promised that we would come here on the 999th day of our love. But in the end, I was the only one who kept the promise. The doctor's calls kept urging me to return for chemotherapy. I silenced the phone and buried the pendant Ethan gave me by the lakeshore. Ethan, this is the last time I will think of you. Maybe there won't be another chance. The moment I finished speaking, blood gushed from my nose, soaking the cold sand. Just then, a voice I had longed to hear for 3 years rang out behind me. "Hey, can you take a picture of me and my girlfriend?" My heart stopped. Quickly wiping the blood, I turned around. Ethan Miller was standing right there. The moment his eyes met mine, his pupils violently contracted, stunned into silence. "Ethan, do you know her?" the girl beside him asked curiously, looping her arm through his. Ethan rigidly tore his gaze away from me, pulling the girl into his arms. His voice was as cold as the wind on the Teso Plateau. "No, I don't." I managed a bitter smile. My heart felt pierced by 1,000 needles, aching so badly I couldn't breathe. Before I could compose myself, Ethan shoved the camera into my hand. "Are you going to take the picture or not?" "We have to go." The girl, feeling he was too rude, offered an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry, sis. He's a little grumpy. Don't take it personally." She turned to him, her voice laced with a spoiled reproach. "Mom said this trip was for us to bond. She specifically asked for a photo. I know you're upset, but you don't have to be so cold to strangers." Referring to his mother, she added softly to me, "Don't worry, we'll pay for your time. Sorry for the trouble." Ethan frowned, his voice icy. "Chloe, why are you telling her so much?" Hearing that name, my head buzzed. So she was Chloe Smith, the girl Ethan's mother had destined to be her future daughter-in-law 2 years ago. I remembered hearing his mother on the phone then. The future daughter-in-law of the Miller family must be a go-getter like Chloe. What can a girl who runs a cheap BBQ joint do for our family? Trying to climb the social ladder? How shameless. Ethan stayed silent for a long time before replying, "Mom, I know. I'll listen to the family and marry someone who makes everyone happy." I hadn't realized they had become a couple so quickly. I felt like I was being torn apart, the pain so intense I could barely stand. Faintly, I took the camera. I raised it. In the frame, Ethan had his arm around Chloe's shoulder, his eyes tender. She leaned against his chest, her smile sweet and radiant like the high plateau sun. As I pressed the shutter, tears welled up and spilled over, blurring my vision. Chloe happily took the camera back, engrossed in the photo, completely oblivious to my distress. Ethan stepped closer, his voice low and chilling. "Scarlett, who are you performing this pathetic act for? What? Regret it? You were so decisive when you dumped me like trash." I swallowed my tears, looked up, and forced a small smile. "Mr. Miller, you're overthinking. It was just an unsuitable relationship, nothing so dramatic. I've never regretted letting you go." His face suddenly turned pale, as if punched in the heart. "Fine, Scarlett. You're great. People like you will never deserve true love." He clenched Chloe's hand and walked away without looking back. I stood still, watching his silhouette disappear. Finally, I let out a soft, self-mocking laugh. He was right. I was the one who let go first. What right did I have to cry? I didn't regret breaking up with Ethan, and I wouldn't have the chance to regret it anyway. I was dying soon. I shakily pulled a syringe of heavy-duty painkiller for cancer patients from my pocket and skillfully injected it into the vein in my wrist. The cold solution slowly flowed into my body. I took one last look at the buried pendant, threw away the syringe, and started my car. Just as I reached the exit gate of Lake Teso, I heard a commotion. "By what authority are you preventing us from leaving?" Ethan's cold voice argued, but the staff was firm. "I apologize, sir. This is peak season. Any vehicle not registered in advance is not allowed to exit." Ethan's face was terrifyingly dark. Then Chloe suddenly spotted my car. Her eyes lit up, and she hurried over. "Oh, miss, I'm so sorry to bother you again." She tapped lightly on my window, her face full of remorse. "Ethan's mom arranged this trip for us. We left in such a hurry that we forgot to register the car online. Now we're stuck. I see your car is registered. Could you please drive us out? My heart felt submerged in water, sinking with every beat. When Ethan called my name earlier, I was secretly happy. I thought he still cared, even a little, but it was all because of his mother's arrangements. Only I remembered the 999-day promise. He was just passing by. I gripped the steering wheel, my gaze involuntarily meeting his in the distance. Chloe continued, "Our hotel is nearby, the Celestial Haven. Please, miss." The Celestial Haven was exactly where I had booked my room. As if possessed, I quietly said, "Okay." Chloe immediately beamed with gratitude, got in the back seat, and called out, "Ethan, hurry up." Ethan walked over. His hand instinctively reached for the passenger door, the seat he'd occupied for 2 years. But just before his fingers touched the handle, he changed direction and got into the back seat next to Chloe. The road fell into a deathly silence. I was so embarrassed I regretted agreeing. Then Ethan spotted a bottle in the car and asked coldly, "What is that?" I couldn't let him know they were my heavy painkillers, so I quickly lied. "Vitamins. You certainly know how to take care of yourself," he sneered, as usual. Chloe gently chided, "Ethan, why are you always so sarcastic with Scarlett? Be a little softer with women." As she spoke, she yawned. Ethan instinctively pulled her head onto his shoulder, a natural, tender gesture that was heartbreaking to watch. "Get some sleep." Chloe blushed. "But there's someone else here." My eyes blurred. I remembered the time we were together. He used to come to my BBQ stall every day, skewering meat and cleaning tables until late. Once, I was so tired I slumped down by the door, unable to get up. He sat down next to me, ignoring his image, laughing, "You smell of smoke, you're a mess." Then he placed my head on his shoulder. We sat on that deserted street, and he suddenly tilted his head, his eyes only for me. "Scarlett, wait for me. I'll definitely marry you." Now, he was engaged to someone else. The pain in my chest surged like a tidal wave. I didn't know if it was the pain of my illness or a broken heart. We finally arrived at the hotel. As I got out of the car, Ethan's icy voice slammed into me. "Scarlett, why are you still following us? Didn't I already transfer the money?" The pain made my breathing shake. The hotel receptionist took my luggage and smiled. "Welcome, Miss Scarlett, to the Celestial Haven. Your room is ready." Ethan froze, realizing his mistake. He awkwardly scratched his nose and went to check in. I lay on the bed, the agony making me dizzy, feeling like I was truly about to die. Suddenly, there was a loud, insistent knocking at the door. Not even death would give me peace. Gritting my teeth in anger, I struggled to the door. Standing outside was Ethan Miller. Chloe was behind him, a hint of awkwardness on her face. "Scarlett, I'm so sorry, but the water heater in our room broke. Could we possibly borrow your bathroom?" My first instinct was to refuse, but Ethan seemed to see through my thoughts. His lips curved slightly, his voice cold and mocking. "What, Scarlett? Are you afraid we'll dirty your room? So stingy? Or are you hiding someone in there and dare not let us in?" His words were like blades slicing my heart, choking me. I bit my lip, abruptly pulled the door wide open and said, "Please come in." Chloe thanked me with a slight bow and entered. Only Ethan and I were left. The sound of water from the bathroom and the steam filling the air created a suffocating silence that made me want to flee. His eyes remained fixed on me, as if trying to see through everything. My scalp tingled with tension. I was about to turn to the balcony to avoid him when his voice suddenly broke the silence, hoarse and carrying 2 years of pent-up anger. "Scarlett Brown, how long are you going to keep running from me?" He walked closer, reaching for me. I quickly flinched, afraid he would see the needle marks on my wrist. His hand met empty air, stopping for a second. His eyes slowly turned red. The next moment, he strode over and forcefully pinned me against the wall. "Scarlett, goddammit! How much longer will you hide? Are you that afraid of me? Why did you suddenly break up with me? You saw my project fail and thought I was useless, not good enough for you, right? Or did you find someone new? Scarlett, what exactly did I do wrong? Tell me, please." His voice was hoarse and trembling, his eyes filled with moisture, like a desperate man trying to hold on to something he'd lost. My heart twisted, almost breaking. But what could I say? Should I tell him I was dying of lung cancer? Or that I overheard his mother calling me shameless? or that I heard him promise her he would marry someone who pleased the family. No, maybe this was better. I couldn't burden him anymore. I turned my face away, my lips pale, forcing out the familiar lie. No reason. Ethan, we weren't a good match. He froze, a breath catching in his chest. A few seconds later, he let out a cold, despairing laugh. Good. Excellent, Scarlett. You're so skilled. He gritted his teeth, pulled out his phone, opened the photo of him and Chloe at Lake Teso, and quickly posted it on his social media. Then, he thrust the phone in front of my face, forcing me to see the caption. Found the right person at the right place. So much for not a good match, Scarlett. I'm here now with the right person. Are you satisfied? A wave of metallic sweetness rose in my throat. I trembled, feeling faint. He saw the change in my expression, and the fury in his eyes momentarily turned to confusion. Scarlett, are you? Before he could finish, the bathroom door opened. Chloe, wrapped in a towel, stepped out and called out sweetly, Ethan, I'm done with my shower, let's go. Ethan's footsteps halted. I trembled, pointing at the door, gritting my teeth. Go! Why are you just standing there? Mr. Miller, your girlfriend is calling you. If you don't listen to her, are you still thinking about someone else? Isn't it shameful for a man who wants it all to be so greedy? His eyes darkened, complex and heavy. Finally, he turned and led Chloe away. The door closed and I completely collapsed. I rushed into the bathroom, doubled over, and coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood into the sink. Staggering, I opened the cabinet, pulled out a syringe of painkiller, and shakily injected it into my arm. As the cold medicine flowed in, I looked at myself in the mirror, a face so pale it barely looked human. Then I burst into tears. He hadn't gone far, just a few steps away. I wanted to tell him, Ethan, it hurts so much I can't take it anymore. I just wanted him to hold me once, just once. But I couldn't. I no longer had the right. In my days, I thought I heard his voice outside the door, so faint it was almost an illusion. Scarlett? I smiled faintly. I must be in so much pain that I was starting to hallucinate. Just then my phone rang. The moment I answered, the doctor's furious shout exploded from the other end. Scarlett, do you want to die? Why haven't you answered your phone for days? Your chemo time is overdue. Don't you value your life? Get back here immediately. The pain crushed my chest. I couldn't speak, only let out weak moans. At that moment, the door was kicked open. Ethan burst in, snatched the phone from my hand, and without looking at the caller, roared into the line. Get lost, she's not available. If you need her, come find her yourself. He slammed the phone down and walked toward me, his face filled with icy mockery. Wow, Scarlett, I wondered how you could dump me so easily. Turns out you already had someone else. So, is your new guy that strict? You're willing to be yelled at and bossed around by him? Scarlett, I truly despise you. This time, I had no strength to resist. His fingers clamped down on my wrist, right where the fresh needle prick was bleeding. The pain spread from my chest, making it impossible to breathe. I tried to open my mouth to tell him it wasn't true. But before I could utter a word, blood gushed from my nose, streaming down my chin. Ethan's eyes suddenly constricted. He saw the blood, and then the needle marks on my hand. His face instantly changed, his voice trembling slightly. What is this? My heart sank. It was over. I struggled with all my might, trying to stay calm and wipe away the flowing blood. It's just a nosebleed. The weather here is too dry. Ethan frowned, his gaze darkening. Then what are these marks on your hand? I immediately pulled my hand away, trying to sound casual. Thorns by the lake cut me. His eyebrows knitted tighter, his eyes fixed on me, trying to distinguish truth from lies. After a long moment, he released my hand, his voice laced with faint mockery. A grown woman still bleeding from a scratch. How careless. He bit his lip, seemingly wanting to say more, but Chloe's knock sounded from outside. Ethan, could you grab my hair tie for me? My mom also asked you to call her back. Don't forget. I know. His voice was low, laced with exhaustion. He turned to call back the missed number. From the other end, a woman's voice, carrying a light laugh, was clearly audible even through the closed door. Ethan, you finally listened to reason. I told you, Chloe is a good girl. Not like that other one, always smelling of cheap grease and looking common. Thinking about her still grosses me out. She had no ambition, just held you back. If you ever run into her again, stay far away." Ethan abruptly cut the call, glancing at me awkwardly before quickly saying, "My mom didn't mean that. Don't take it to heart." I curved my lips into a strained smile, shaking my head. I do know. Your aunt thought the same of me 2 years ago." Ethan pursed his lips, trying to find another topic to ease the awkwardness. But I didn't want to continue. I was too tired, too much in pain. "It's fine, I understand." I turned, opened the door, and looked at Chloe standing in the hallway. "Chloe, your boyfriend said I'll drive you a bit further tomorrow and drop you off where you parked your car." I agreed. "You two should rest early." "Scarlett?" Ethan's voice was urgent, wanting to say something. I looked up at him calmly. "Why? Do you want to stay here and make your mother worry more about the relationship between you and your future daughter-in-law?" That single sentence was a wall, definitively separating us. Ethan fell silent, his chest heaving with anger. He glared at me with resentment, then grabbed Chloe and walked away. I leaned back against the wall, watching his figure disappear, exhaling a long breath tainted with the coppery taste of blood. This was the final stretch. I would treat this as a last meeting, escorting him this final distance as a final farewell. After that, I would return to the hospital, continue chemotherapy, and quietly wait for death. The next morning, the air in the car was so heavy it was suffocating. Ethan and I remained silent. The car stopped at a gas station. I opened the door to fill the tank, but as soon as I stood up, a fit of coughing hit me. I coughed violently, feeling like my organs were tearing apart, the metallic taste of blood overwhelming my throat. Fearing he would see, I quickly covered my mouth with a tissue and rushed into the restroom. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ethan's face instantly change. His eyes panicked, and he quickly started to follow. "Ethan!" Chloe quickly held his arm, pointing at the sign. "That's the women's room. Let me go check on her." Ethan frowned, clearly agitated, but nodded. I leaned on the sink, coughing up a mouthful of dark blood, soaking the tissue in my hand. Exhausted, I threw it into the trash and tried to wash the blood from the corner of my mouth with cold water. "It seems you really don't have long to live." Chloe's voice came from behind me, cold and sharp. I froze, looking up at the mirror. She was standing in the doorway, her eyes fixed on the bloody tissue in the trash. There was a look of strange pity on her face. "I know you were Ethan's ex-girlfriend. I recognized you the first time we met. I pretended not to know you yesterday." I remained silent, watching her in the mirror, offering no denial. "Ethan's mother mentioned you. She said she despised you because you took advantage of him when he was down. A few years ago, Ethan failed a project and was cornered by the board. He walked out without his phone or wallet and collapsed from low blood sugar outside your shop. You fed him a barbecue meal, and he never forgot it. He even humbled himself to work at your stall, skewering meat and cleaning tables, becoming your employee, which made his mother furious. Ethan is the heir to the Miller Group, Scarlett. Normally, you wouldn't even have the right to meet him. You're not good enough for him." She walked closer, her voice dropping, cold and definitive. "I hope you can disappear from Ethan's world completely, thoroughly. Don't ever appear in front of us again." I clenched my fists, a silent sob catching in my throat. When Ethan had a 104-degree fever and was unconscious, I carried him in the rain to the hospital and stayed awake for 5 straight nights. When rivals hired thugs to cause trouble for him, I fought them off with a wooden chair. The last time they came with bats, aiming for his head, I shielded him. That blow left me bedridden for half a month. Even now, the wound aches when it rains. But I'm dying. What use is there in saying any of that? I gripped the edge of the sink, letting the pain well up, making my eyes red. I know I don't have much time left. My voice trembled. I never wanted to bother him. I only came to Lake Teso to give myself a final goodbye. Running into you two was unexpected. Chloe, I won't be an obstacle between you. I just wanted one last chance to look at him in my final days. But her next words crushed the last fragile barrier of my self-respect. Ethan is still young. His life is long. Spending the rest of it remembering a ghost is too cruel for him. All strength drained from me. Yes, it was cruel. I knew it. That's why I chose to leave. Looking at her calm face, I realized I shouldn't even have the slightest hope. Chloe truly loved him enough to soberly plan his future. All I could do was drag him down. I closed my eyes and nodded faintly. Okay, I promise. After I drop you two off, I'll leave for good. But I have one request. I looked deeply at her. Please, love him well. Take good care of him. Chloe's eyes wavered slightly, and her voice trembled. I will. She opened her bag and took out a tube of lipstick. Put this on. Before you leave him, don't let yourself look like a dying person. I took the bright red lipstick from her hand, looked in the mirror, and meticulously applied it. In the glass, aside from the horrifyingly pale face, I seemed like my old self, calm, quiet, and desperately pretending to be strong. We stepped out of the restroom, one after the other. Ethan immediately approached, frowning at me. What's wrong? You were in there forever? His eyes stopped on my bright red lips and still white face, and he spoke, half blame, half disgust. Before I could figure out how to answer, Chloe quickly stepped in. She's having altitude sickness. She was nauseous, but she's feeling better now. Ethan's voice was still cold, with a hint of scolding. Altitude sickness, and you still dare to come here alone? You're getting better and better. He walked past me, opening the driver's side door, his voice stiff. You ride in the back. I looked at his back and smiled faintly, then obediently got into the back seat. The mountain road was bumpy. Every jolt felt like tearing the pain in my chest. I didn't dare inject medicine in front of them, so I secretly took the strong painkillers I had in the car and swallowed several pills. But in the rearview mirror, I caught his cold eyes fixed on my every movement. Scarlett, what are you taking? His voice was like ice shards. What kind of vitamins do you keep taking in the car like that? I choked, unable to think of a plausible excuse. Chloe quickly reached into her bag, pulled out a small, exquisite box, and handed it to me. Her voice was gentle and tactful. Oh, Ethan, you worry too much. Girls need supplements when they're weak. She turned to me softly. Scarlett, this is cordyceps that Ethan's mom gave me the other day. I'm healthy, but you look a bit weak. Please take it. Consider it a thank you from Ethan and me for helping us these past few days. She helped me cover my tracks while subtly reminding me that we belonged to two different worlds. I tightly gripped the box in my hand, forcing a smile that made my lips look even paler beneath the lipstick. Thank you. The air in the car fell into a suffocating silence again. Finally, the car stopped at the parking lot where they had left their own vehicle. This was the end point. Ethan got out. I silently looked at his profile, etching every feature into my memory. After a long, long look, perhaps feeling the heat of my gaze, I said softly, goodbye. His body trembled slightly. I didn't look back, got into the driver's seat, and pressed hard on the accelerator. The scenery outside the window rushed past. I didn't dare glance in the rearview mirror, knowing that one look would shatter all my resolve. Ethan Miller, I miss you so much. If only I could have you by my side in my last moments. I'm so scared. Scared to die alone. Ethan watched my car disappear around the bend, an unnamed unease rising in his heart. That feeling stayed with him for 6 or 7 hours on the highway, growing heavier and heavier. He pressed the accelerator harder, unconsciously venting his frustration. Beside him, Chloe looked at his wrist and spoke softly. Ethan, where's your watch? Did you forget it at the hotel? Should we turn back and look? He gripped the steering wheel, suppressing the annoyance, and replied coldly, the act is over. The photo has been sent to my mother. The task is complete. Scarlett has also left. You don't need to play my girlfriend anymore. The smile on Chloe's face froze. After a long pause, she managed to keep her voice steady. I was just being nice and reminding you. That watch is expensive. Ethan tilted his head, his voice indifferent. I know where it is. You don't need to worry. Ethan had deliberately left the watch in Scarlett's car. The moment she and Chloe were exchanging pleasantries over the cordyceps box, he had silently taken it off. It was all for one reason, one small excuse, to be able to talk to her one more time. To tell her that every time he obeyed his mother, it was against his will, that he never wanted her to misunderstand. After driving for a while, his mind was a mess. Finally, he slammed on the brakes, pulled the car over to the side of the road, and called her. The phone rang for a long time, unanswered. He called a second time. Still the endless, silent, cold ring. A fierce anxiety surged, squeezing his chest. Something's wrong. Absolutely wrong. No matter how busy she was, even at her shop, she would never ignore his calls. Could something have happened? He immediately opened the GPS connected to the watch. On the screen, a blinking red dot showed the location, Regional People's Hospital. Ethan's entire body went rigid. Hospital? Why is she at a hospital? Images of her pale face, the bright red nosebleed, and the vitamins she swallowed like poison flooded his mind. He clearly remembered her painful expression, her shaky voice saying it was just a nosebleed. His throat tightened. If something happened to her, if she had an accident or collapsed on the road because he left her alone, just thinking about it sent cold sweat pouring down his back. That day, the 999th day, they had promised to visit Lake Teso together. The line, "Hey, can you take a picture of me?" was what he blurted out when he saw a girl by the lake who looked exactly like her. When he realized it really was Scarlett, he was overjoyed. But then he remembered the sudden breakup that year. Remembering his crushed pride, he spoke those cruel words and pushed her away. If those words distracted her and caused an accident, Ethan trembled, his lips white, feeling like he couldn't breathe. "Get out!" he barked abruptly the moment they passed the highway exit ramp. Chloe froze. "What did you say? I told you to get out! Drive yourself home! The act is over!" Losing all composure, he opened the door, rushed out, waved down a passing taxi, and almost screamed. "People's Hospital! Fast!" The taxi sped off like crazy. The whole way, he repeated one sentence in his mind. "Scarlett, don't let anything happen to you. I beg you, don't." When the taxi stopped at the hospital gate, he lunged into the emergency room, panting, almost shouting at the nurse's desk. "Excuse me, Scarlett Brown, the traffic accident victim, which room is she in?" The nurse quickly checked the computer, looked up, and said calmly, "There is no patient named Scarlett Brown admitted for a traffic accident." Ethan let out a sigh of relief, feeling as if he had been pulled from an abyss. But the nurse's next sentence was like a knife to his heart. "But there is a patient named Scarlett Brown in the oncology department. Are you related to her?" Oncology department. Ethan felt like he'd been struck by lightning, his mind blank. How could it be cancer? She was perfectly healthy before they broke up, full of life, laughing loudly every day at her BBQ stall. Impossible. Check again. Maybe it's a common name? The nurse, losing patience, turned the screen towards him. "See for yourself. Scarlett Brown, stage 4, lung cancer. That's your room 302. In a single second, Ethan's world collapsed. His vision blurred, his legs barely held him up. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He ran blindly toward the inpatient ward, murmuring constantly as if praying. It must be a common name. It must be a misunderstanding. It must just be a coincidence. But when the door to room 302 swung open, the familiar sight he had longed for 2 years appeared right before his eyes. Scarlett was lying on the hospital bed, her face gray, her lips colorless, her body so thin that a gust of wind could blow her away. A nurse, changing her forebag, frowned and hissed, "Who is that? Quiet down, the patient needs rest." Diagnoses 2 years ago, stage 2 lung cancer 2 years ago. That was exactly when she suddenly broke up with him. So that was the reason she left him. She had silently endured this for 2 years, fighting alone until now. How much pain must she have been in? Hot tears fell onto the medical record, blurring the text. Ethan tightly gripped the edge of the bed, his throat choked, his chest aching unbearably. I opened my eyes. Ethan's face was right in front of me. Was it a dream? Otherwise, why would he look at me so tenderly? "Ethan," I whispered, my voice shaky. "I'm here, Scarlett. I'm here." He quickly grabbed my hand, pressing his cheek against my palm, his eyes red, his breathing ragged. When his skin touched mine, the familiar warmth brought forth tears that broke like a dam. In the past, whenever I was tired, he would rest his head on my hand like this, laughing about the little things in life. Now, only this dream remained. "Ethan, you bastard. You forgot me so fast. You even brought someone else to the place we promised to be." I laughed through my tears, scolding him hopelessly. "You've been mad at me for 2 years, and only now you show up in my dream? You're terrible. I didn't truly want to break up with you. You were heartless, calling me malicious. At the hotel, you called me petty. I am petty. So what? If I had a choice, who would want to give you up to someone else? I cried and laughed, my smile more bitter than my tears. But so what if I'm petty? It's fine. Forget me, Ethan. You and Chloe Young should be happy. Anyway, I'm dying. Meeting you like this in a dream is enough. Don't say that. He suddenly squeezed my hand, almost shouting, Scarlett, I never forgot. Don't talk nonsense. I came to the lake because I remember our 999-day promise. You don't know this, but when I saw you, I was so happy I thought my heart would explode. I brought Chloe Young only because my mother forced me. She's not my girlfriend, not my fiancé. I was only pretending, just trying to make you jealous one more time. Because only when you're jealous do I know you still care about me. I don't want to be abandoned by you again. His eyes were bloodshot, his words almost pleading. I just laughed, the laugh filled with overwhelming bitterness. If only Ethan had honestly told me that. But he couldn't have. He had promised his mother to marry someone who pleased her. That person was Chloe Young, not me. Ethan's eyes darted around, and the tears finally fell. His voice was hoarse and broken. It's the truth, Scarlett. It's the truth, those words. I only said them to appease my mother. I just wanted to quickly get my standing so I could properly marry you. I should have told you sooner, not let you suffer alone for 2 years. He sobbed, almost choking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Scarlett. I froze. Ethan embraced me with all his strength. He wept, choking on his words, squeezing me so tightly. It felt like he was trying to crush all the pain out of my body. From that day on, after settling his work, he came almost every day. He was no longer the heir, no longer anyone else, just my Ethan Miller. Sometimes he'd wheel me down to the garden and sit with me on a bench, watching the sun. Sometimes he'd sit by my bed watching the old TV dramas I used to obsess over. Occasionally, he'd sneak in hot, freshly grilled meat skewers, hiding from the nurse. When he was caught, the nurse chased him down the hallway and scolded him for minutes. He'd just cover his ears, his face straight. When the nurse left, he'd calmly hand the skewers to me. Eat, it's still hot. I held his hand and laughed, watching him get scolded. It felt like we were back in the days before we broke up, but I knew those days were numbered. Even the painkillers I swallowed constantly couldn't stop the knife-like pain. My body grew weaker and weaker until I couldn't even get out of bed anymore. He gently lifted me onto the wheelchair and pushed me down the hallway, whispering fleeting but fervent promises into my ear. Scarlett, when you get better, I'll take you to see the northern lights. When you get better, we'll open a small shop. No more grilling meat, it's too much work. When you get better, we will get married. I smiled and nodded, doing my best to look convinced. Okay, but we both knew that day would never come. That night, the moonlight outside the window was as bright as water. I woke up and sat up, watching the silver light wash over the white-tiled floor. Ethan was asleep, slumped over the bedside, leaning against the edge of the blanket. I gently touched him. He woke with a start, rubbing his eyes, his voice hoarse. What is it, Scarlett? Are you in pain? I shook my head, smiling, my voice light as the wind. Ethan, I want to watch the sunrise. He paused, his eyes briefly trembling, but he asked nothing. His eyes just reddened, and he nodded once. Okay. He pushed my wheelchair to a small hill near the hospital. The sky was full of stars. The night wind was bone-chilling. We waited in silence for the first light of dawn. Then, the first golden ray tore through the night, spreading across the horizon. The entire world burst into light, warm, bright, and magnificent. It's so beautiful, I whispered. My breath became heavier. Each gasp choked and labored. I tried to inhale deeply, but my strength was gone. When my lungs could endure no more, I leaned my head on his shoulder, looking at him one last time. Ethan, don't cry. I faintly raised my hand, wanting to touch his cheek, but my hand trembled and then fell limp. The rising sun shone onto his tear-filled eyes. Scarlett, open your eyes. You haven't seen the northern lights with me yet, Scarlett. He tightly hugged my body, which was quickly growing cold, weeping until his breath broke. His choked sobs cut through the early morning air. It was exactly like the day I was 24, when he had held me and whispered, Scarlett, Wait for me. I'll definitely marry you." Back then, I had laughed and replied, "Yes, I will." After the cremation ceremony, Ethan Miller brought my ashes back to Lake Teso. I had told him once that I wanted to rest there. He knelt by the shore, his hands, which had once so passionately held mine, suddenly touching something cold as he dug. He quickly uncovered it, the pendant I had buried there, the gift he had given me that year. The small, intricately carved wooden piece lay in his palm, and he squeezed it so tightly his hand bled. He bowed his head, his tears mixing with the sand, falling in bitter, salty drops. By the sacred lake, the biting wind swept over him. The man slumped down, unable to hold back, weeping until his soul was shattered.